I've said a fair few things about sleep disorders over the years. And in fact, my friend Andrew Gold even had an inquiry from Robbie Williams to ask who the guy was who'd talked about delayed sleep wake syndrome. And I was that guy. I think that we are seeing far too many people who believe they have insomnia and far too many diagnoses of chronic fatigue syndrome that are actually a delayed sleep wake phase. Now, what does this mean? Genetically, we're born with a certain sleep cycle imprinted upon us. There are three different types that used to be believed when I was diagnosed, which is a long time ago, um, 30 years ago. It used to be believed that less than 2% of people have a delayed sleep wake phase. This is also called eveningness or being a night owl. What we find is that somebody who has this condition prefers to go to bed late and get up late. Traditionally, there is a fairly negative view. I was 11 years old when this started happening to me. And I went to my mum and said, could I not go to church on a Sunday morning anymore? And she said yes, and she didn't inquire why. Um, I'd have been quite happy to go to Evensong in the afternoon because what was happening was that I was sleeping late on a Saturday to try and compensate for not getting enough sleep during the week. And I wanted to sleep late on a Sunday as well. I lasted for about 10 years. I was about 21 when I finally decided that I just couldn't concentrate. My memory wasn't working adequately. My immune system wasn't working properly. I was tired all the time. I was chronically fatigued. The reason I was chronically fatigued is because of this genetic setting. Various genes have been found, which the periodicity genes, for example, and it was said early on a Nobel Prize was given, I think, in 1986 for the discovery of periodicity genes, and specifically the PER, periodicity 3 gene, which sets late waking, late sleeping. Now, it was thought when I was diagnosed that less than 2% of people have this condition. Now, Matthew Walker, who's a professor at Berkeley and a sleep specialist and neuroscientist, tells us that about 30% of the population have this preference. And it could well be that your insomnia or your chronic fatigue isn't those things. You just need to adjust your sleep cycle. About 40% of people have an advanced sleep wake cycle. And that means that they fall asleep in the evening, no matter what, and they wake up early. My mum had this. She was always up before 7 o'clock in the morning, no matter what time she went to bed. My dad, on the other hand, would stay up listening to the radio until 4 or 5 in the morning and then get 3 hours sleep, perhaps. And it has a mood effect. It tends to make you irritable. Everybody knows what it's like to be tired. But it does make you more vulnerable to disease. It means you're more likely to bump into things, walk into things. So it's very important to find out what your natural sleep cycle is and also to get over any feelings of guilt, because despite the fact that we are being offered melatonin because we're told that our melatonin release is late and that's what gets us to go to sleep, and we're being offered blue light to wake us up. And I've talked with a number of sleep specialists over the years. These methods don't work for me. Also, looking at studies, they don't work for the majority of people. They're put forward as a typical doctor thing, which is, well, if it didn't work, it's because you didn't do it properly, which is true of just about any cult group. They'll tell you it's you that was in the wrong. There was a meta-analysis of the use of melatonin, I think it was last year or the year before, where a huge group of studies on melatonin were gathered together and looked at. And it was found that, in fact, we don't really know what melatonin does. So this panacea for sleep problems, which is being given to hundreds of thousands of children around the world when they start developing difficulty waking up in the morning, which tends to happen early on in adolescence. As I say, I was 11 years old when it happened to me. And you're looked down upon. There's the thought that you are a creature of the night, that there is, something strange about you. I sleep the same amount of time other people do. I sleep for about between 7 and 8 hours a night. Um, and I just find that I've lived this way since I was 21 years old. I'm 69 now. And the society forces you to get up in the morning. I mean, one of my favorite things is if you want to go to a sleep clinic, you'll have to go in the morning in this country. So even though they understand the condition, it's also true to say that it isn't just melatonin that's involved with sleep. Even if it is involved with sleep, there's what wakes you up as well. And that will normally be cortisol, or a chemical that is called orexin or hypercretin. And there are two forms of that. These are physiological. They're things that happen in your brain. You cannot use your willpower to overcome this. You cannot use melatonin. So if you are having sleep problems, I would suggest switch off the alarm clock at the weekends, particularly. And in fact, if you tend to sleep late at the weekends, anywhere more than an hour beyond your normal waking time, there's a strong possibility that you have a delayed sleep-wake phase. And just try. One of my kids, when he was about 15, having had a diagnosis for 3 years of chronic fatigue syndrome, I had him go for 3 weeks without an alarm clock, just waking when he felt like waking. And it cured all of the symptoms of his chronic fatigue disorder at that time. And for 3 years, he was symptom free. So this is just a little piece of advice. It's very important to get enough sleep. If you don't, you are more accident prone, you're more disease prone, you'll get irritable, you'll annoy the people around you even more than you would otherwise do. And you won't be able to concentrate properly. So to get well, first of all, sleep enough. Then make sure you've got a good, healthy diet. And then make sure you have enough exercise. So those are my tips for today. And thanks very much for spending your time with me. And please let me know what you think about this and whether you'd like more videos of this type. Thanks so much. I'm John Atack. Hi, John here. Thanks for watching. We'd appreciate it very much if you would click like, as well as subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Every dollar helps, and we welcome new patrons on Patreon, or you can make a one-off payment with any currency through PayPal. Thanks so much.